Okay, a very good evening to everyone. My name is Dr. Nasser Ali from YPS, Young Professional Society. I would like to welcome you today to this very important webinar. And as you know that YPS has been conducting these webinars now for the last several months. What we try to do is we try to bring experts from different fields, from different professions to come in and speak about their professions and to give advice to the youngsters. We've had all sorts of different people, academics, we've had politicians, we've had lawyers come in and speak. And it's a great opportunity for the young people to actually learn from these and to network as well. So today we're delighted to have with us Dr. Ahmed Shibli, who's an expert in his field. And these webinars we've been conducting have been in collaboration with our partners, STEM Matters, who are based in Texas in the United States, who are helping youngsters with innovation and creativity. So unfortunately, we're not able to live stream on Facebook due to some technical difficulties, but we will be uploading the recording of this on our YouTube channel, Young Professional Society, and we have all our webinars. You'll find recordings on our YouTube channel. Let me begin by introducing our speaker, Dr. Ahmed Shibli, who is a practicing materials scientist. He's actually the managing director of a European Technology Development, ETD, company, which is a research and consulting company based in Surrey, down south of England. Now, Dr. Ahmed Shibli has initiated and led many European and international projects related to power plant industry. He has published over 100 research papers and books in the field. He has organized and chaired many important conferences in the field. So he's an international authority in the field. And Dr. Ahmed Shibli did his BSc from the University of Punjab in Lahore in Pakistan. Then he came to the UK to do his master's degree at UMIST at the University of Manchester. And then subsequently he did his PhD at the University of Wales. Now I met Dr. Ahmed Shibli in 2006 in Islamabad in Pakistan when we gave a talk at the NUST University together. And then after that, there was a conference in Islamabad that we both attended and we both gave a talk. So I was very pleased, and it's been many years now. Then I think we met in 2009 at a conference in Manchester. So I'm delighted to have Dr. Ahmed Shibli with us today, and I would like to thank him for his time. Dr. Ahmed Shibli will be speaking today about leadership, innovation, technology, and development. And as you know, YPS focuses and works around three pillars, or under three pillars, and that is communication, leadership, and innovation. So this is a very, very timely webinar, and I'm sure those people who are listening or watching this webinar will find. And if you've got any questions, if you're watching, if you could please type them in the chat box. And after the presentation, Dr. Shibli will be able to answer your question. So without further ado, I'll pass over to Dr. Ahmed Shibli.
Well, good evening, everyone. And thank you very much for Dr. Ali for your kind introduction. As Dr. Nasser Ali said, my field is really material sciences and development of materials for power and petrochemical industry. But I'll be talking about something different, about the leadership, innovation, technology, and development. So I'll make the talk a bit informal. If you have any questions, as Dr. Ali said, you can send it to question and answer sort of, I think, box at the bottom of the screen that you see, or to the chat box, whichever the organizers prefer. So I will now start from, initially I meant really just to give a talk, but I think Dr. Ali asked me to perhaps presented in terms of slides. So I hope I have sort of included all the useful, important points. A lot of these will apply to the professionals and maybe to scientists and engineers. So I'm not really sure how many of the attendees come from that background, but I suppose you'll be all from some sort of professional background, and I hope you will find it useful. We are based in a place called Leatherhead, not far from Epsom, about maybe 40 minutes by local train journey to central London. And now I go into slide number 1. Sorry, I'm just seeing something at the top of the screen, which I'm trying to get rid of. All right, okay.
We can see perfectly fine.
I think, Nasser, just the titles are hiding on the top of the screen. I see the bar which says new share, pause share, annotate.
What we're saying now is I will be talking about 4 issues here.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing the Zoom sort of titles at the top, which are normally appear sort of at the bottom or somewhere else. So a part of my is hiding a part of my slide, the title of the slide.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I've done Zoom many times, but I haven't really come across this thing before. Mm-hmm. So let's see what is the issue and the problem.
Yeah, we're seeing this title, this page.
Yeah, I can see on the first page, but the second ones and the rest of them, I can't see the titles really. All right, okay. So maybe I don't go into presentation mode.
Yeah, yes. You should go normal mode.
Yeah, normal mode, then that might help. And I hope everybody can see it right. Okay, now I can see the titles. So my first slide is that I'll be talking about 4 different issues. Leadership style in different environments, such as political, professional, technology, and innovation. And I'll be talking about technology for development. Technology and innovation comes from my own sort of background. We have been running this company for nearly about 23 years now, approaching quarter of a century soon, which is involved in research and development together with the international industry from Japan, Europe, and North America. And technology for development is really my kind of hobby. I have been involved for many years and have published a journal as well on technology for development, mainly for the developing countries, and how the technology can help agriculture, food, healthcare, and various other development issues in the developing countries. Political, this talk is not obviously about the political side, although I am a member of the UK Parliamentary Review Committee, and also a member of the Leadership Council of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. But I'll be only showing a few slides, really, just because I think they are relevant for the professional people in terms of leadership in their own sort of areas and in their own fields of expertise. So mostly based on my own experience. So next slide is the different styles of leaderships are there. If you go to Google or to Wikipedia, you will see a lot of styles of leadership, like autocratic style and authoritative style and so on and so forth. I think that's probably that's the history these days. Maybe still applies to some countries in terms of political leadership, but not what we are talking about today. So I will be I think, I see the leadership in sort of two ways: lead by authority and keep the distance from those working for you. And that, some people apply that type of leadership in industry. Um, and the one really that I have preferred myself is especially for research and development and innovation, that is lead by example and by motivating the followers, by motivating your staff. Make those working for you proud of what they do. So remember that in professional circles, many of your colleagues or your people working for you, they have graduated because they have certain ambitions in life. So really, you need to find out their strengths and their weaknesses, and instead of harping on their weaknesses, the best thing is to uh, motivate them in the areas that they are strong in. And also remember that when you have a team, then you will need people with different team strengths, different strengths in that team. There'll be some people who will be good at innovation. There'll be some people who need to organize things and basically the projects of time scales and the targets intact. And so there will be a lot of complexities. The larger the project, the larger the complexity, there'll be so many partners. So you need people also with all different types of abilities to make the project successful. So just make sure that you exploit the strengths of the people, and just remember that we are all humans and we all have weaknesses as well. So that is really my main point there. The next slide is, as I said, in technology and innovation leadership style number 2. By setting example and by motivating people, will definitely apply. People who innovate are self-motivated people, not necessarily looking for immediate gains. Definitely not the people who need to be watched by their superiors. What motivates some and not others is the subject of much debate. It could be their bringing up at home. Sometimes their poor parents or one of the parents have motivated them about life or about the aims and objectives of life. A particular teacher, and I remember in this case, particular teacher, I think it was David Blunkett, at one time Home Secretary. He said that when he was in the school, he was obviously, I think he was born blind. And when he was in the school, there was a Pakistani origin teacher who basically, told him certain things that in spite of being blind, he can achieve whatever he wanted to achieve. And that somehow sort of, he never forgot. And that's something that motivated him, and he realized that he can. There's nothing that can stop him from achieving what he wanted to achieve in his life. The other thing that can motivate people could be sometimes someone in the peer group, or even the biography of perhaps of a great leader or a great scientist. So there are different factors that during perhaps early stages of their life. So as I said before, what I'll be talking about, my experience is based on leading some of the largest European Commission research and development projects in technology development. And one of my tasks was to bring the European industry and academia together. And so we had an industry involved from Sweden to Portugal, from Greece to Ireland, and so on, from various European countries. Bring them all together to lead the projects and to lead those scientists. It was quite a challenging job, but as long as you are fair to the people and you understand their cultures and their their what they want, what did they want to achieve, and you are sympathetic to that. Everybody is happy with your leadership. So those are the important things. Number two, setting up an R&D and technical consulting company, which I did, which is now known sort of the world over. We do work with the collaborators in Japan, for example, in South Africa, in Canada, from Sweden to Singapore, Japan, and so on, Taiwan as well. So those are the those are the sort of background. That's the background, the experience that I'll be sort of utilizing really to give today's talk and hopefully motivate some of the younger people. So there are leadership when everything is going smooth, and the leadership in crisis. In the professional circles, like for example, even companies like ours, in R&D or the technical consulting, this is a crisis time. There isn't a lot of business, and we still have to keep people motivated in crisis. And I think the example I'm going to quote here is a critical example, because everybody during this COVID crisis, everybody understands that, and I think is well familiar. COVID-19 is the best example. Serious and hardworking leaders who led by example and were trusted by their followers and were successful in controlling the virus. They were successful in controlling the virus, as we know. So the examples are Angela Merkel of Germany, Jacinda Ardern of New Zealand, Sanna Marin of Finland, and leaders of South Korea, for example, it's all democratic countries. Vietnam, which has got thousands of miles of border with China. Mongolia also has a huge border with China, with daily trains going from Beijing to Mongolia and the flights, Taiwan and Singapore. Now, all these countries, in spite of the fact that they have long borders with China and they have trains, or many of them have the road traffic and the trains, railway traffic, and the flights going there regularly. They from day one, they stopped all. They put their foot down and stop all the flights, trains, and everything from China going into those countries. And the number of deaths there for something that you can count on the fingers of one hand or maybe two hands, maybe a bit more, but very different from the response from our European countries. Going to the next slide, populist leaders with a mindset perhaps less interested in detailed analysis and long-term consequences, they miserably failed to save their people from this terrible pandemic and resulted in some of the highest numbers of deaths. So starting from home, we know our own leader. In fact, I was listening to, I think it was Rory Bremer, who used to be, during the occupation of Iraq, used to be deputy leader of Iraq. He was being interviewed on the radio the other day, and he said when Boris Johnson was a foreign minister and he worked for him, he used to take the various cases to him, and Johnson was never interested in details. He just wanted to make quick decisions. And then obviously we know the case of Donald Trump, Narendra Modi, Jair Bolsonaro, Benjamin Netanyahu, and so on. So these examples are very clear. They are not coincidental. All those who are populist leaders and who made the decisions on the hoof, they had huge number of deaths in their countries. They all had macho attitude, resulting in some of the highest number of deaths. So go to the next slide. These populist leaders, they might have set bad examples. As I said before, for professionals, setting the example is very important for motivating people. But in this populist leaders case, the trust was eroded with their own public. And the case of Dominic Cummings' eyesight test drive to Bernard Castle is again another example, and it's widely believed, has been discussed in the news media and in the newspapers and on the radio, that people in the UK started ignoring COVID rules because of that case, when they realized that the leadership was itself not serious in following the rules. So again, coming to, some of you will be familiar with the developing countries, and because I'll be talking about technology and development, so I'm bringing them in as well. Many wealthy people in developing countries, for example, are known not to pay the tax because they believe, rightly or wrongly, that their leaders don't pay the taxes either. So these are the examples of setting bad examples by the leaders. Somewhat similar factors apply to successful leadership in professional circles. As an employer in an industrial R&D and technical consulting organization, I know that some people are more motivated than others. So this is by nature, we are all different as well. Some of the workers, even research and development, luckily not many, but some of them are 9-to-5 workers, while for others, work is a step to excelling and achieving something in life. In work time constraint is certainly not an issue for these people. People who succeed are the ones who are single-minded and determined to succeed. Circumstances are rarely perfect for anyone. You create your own space. There are a number of people you'll meet in life who will say, I could have done this and I could have done that, provided I had certain circumstances, provided I didn't have this problem or that problem. So we have to remember that we all have, no one has got the perfect circumstances, or very few people have perfect circumstances. We all have issues of one type or another in our life, and that should not be really and cannot be used as an excuse for not achieving your objectives. And again, David Blunkett's example is the perfect example, where he didn't have eyesight, and in spite of that, he managed to achieve a very high level of leadership and position in the country. Sorry, I moved on to, right, okay. Next slide. As an employer, I can tell you that we are always looking for self-motivated, hardworking people. People who are determined to achieve something, and people who are team players usually go very far in their careers. A company or an organization is looking for the people who have the ability to motivate and lead others. These are the people who will become the leaders. So when we are looking for the managers or the directors, these are not the random choices. You look for the people who are dedicated and who are motivated. So that's something that young people that who might be listening today to remember, that they have to be motivated and they have to be hardworking people. I think it was, I'm not sure if it was Newton or Einstein, but one of the scientists he had said that it is 99% perspiration and 1% aspiration. So hard work is very important. And once you become a leader, then your success will depend on your firmness and your fairness. I think those are the two important things. You not only need to be fair in your decisions and judgment, but also need to be seen to be fair to be everyone. Not just being fair, but seen to be fair to everyone. As a team leader, you will have to make uncomfortable choices, promote some and not others, because obviously some will be more suited for management positions, for senior research positions, while others will be less suited. That's a human thing. This will upset some, those who have not been promoted, but as long as you have set the rules clearly, you follow those rules, and everyone is aware of these rules, you will be able to justify this and not upset too many people, or not upset them too much. In terms of leading a multinational team, I talked about this European Commission projects where we have multinational teams. We do also do projects which are called group sponsored projects, where we have teams from outside Europe as well. We might have a partner from like General Electric from USA, for example, or ESCOM from South Africa, or TNB from Malaysia. So these are the people with different time zones, coming from different time zones, with different cultures and different attitudes. So managing those teams could be a bit of a bigger challenge. You will need to be sensitive to their cultures. That's the important thing, and respect their cultures. You'll have to use and speak simple English. That is another thing that I have seen, that sometimes, if you like, foreigners are those whose mother tongue is not English. They are more successful, and then whose mother tongue is English, from England or Scotland, because they could end up using a lot of colloquial words, or some of the colloquial words, and sometimes phrases which are not known to the people. For example, in Europe, or not, they will not understand them. For example, in one of the meetings, which I was chairing, and where various countries were involved, I said to one of the I think French sort of team member, I said that action number 7 is against you, and he was quite upset. He said, "Why is it against me? I have been doing all my actions very well." So what I meant was that action is something that he will have to do, but he thought it was something against him. So the words like that, one has to be quite sort of careful in using those type of words. And again, another important point to remember in international team is that you have to give everyone a chance to express themselves slowly in a foreign language. It's not their language, so you have to give them chance to express themselves slowly and clearly. Give them plenty of time. So for an international team, those are the things that I've found very valuable. Now, coming to minority group issues, if you belong to a minority group, especially a visible ethnic minority, and when I say visible ethnic minority, for example, a Polish, somebody coming from Poland may not be visible here after a few years, but somebody coming from West Indies or from Southeast Asia or South Asia will remain visible, all the time. So in that case, then there may be a bias against you, real or imaginary. Sometimes it's real, sometimes people just imagine that there's bias against them. It's difficult to distinguish between the two. But don't let it get you down. If you are determined and prove yourself to be stronger than those who show any bias against you, then at least in the UK, we know you will be able to cross this barrier. There will be others who will recognize your passion and will let you grow. So you just have to be steadfast in your determination. My experience. There are plenty of examples of those who came from a humble background from the so-called third world or developing countries and rose to the top in the UK, USA, and elsewhere. And you can see that now in the news media, in politics, and so on. So I think the examples are already now becoming very clear, and that should encourage the next generation to know that they can cross these various barriers. Those who feel victimized and feel that the world is against them cannot go far in their life and end up blaming the world for their failure. This applies to individuals and to nations as well. There are countries which also feel that they're that they are not being allowed to develop, for example. And I remember going to China many years ago when I was invited by Chinese Academy of Sciences. And that was, I think, was about maybe more than 30 years ago. And they had presented to these scientists from various countries. They had some presentations on what they are trying to achieve in medicine, in healthcare, and in various other fields, in energy sector, and so on, in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. At that time, the Nobel laureate Professor Abdul Salam, he has basically had organized that meeting, and I was invited in that as well. And we had published an issue of a journal as well based on that sort of Chinese papers. And it was quite sort of clear that after 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, they had achieved those things. They didn't use this excuse that West is not trying to let them develop or somebody else is hindering their development. They were determined and they achieved those targets. So as I said, those apply to the nations and to the individual peoples. Let me see the time. I think I'm okay, Dr. Nasser.
Yes, you can continue. Yeah.
Thank you. And now some thoughts about innovation. Innovation is good thinking and the belief that every problem must have a solution. As they say, need is the mother of invention, but it does not stop there. Invention needs a clear, thoughtful, determined, and motivated mind. I have come across people who, when given a new industry problem, come back and say that it cannot be solved. It is just not possible. Some say that others have tried but have failed, so there's no chance of solving it. But you always find a positive mind, someone who feels that this creates a golden opportunity for them to solve this problem and get a big recognition. I often say, especially to young graduates, don't tell me what can't be done. Tell me the ways that one could possibly consider to solve this problem. Come up with some ideas. Not saying that it can't be done, that's the easiest way out. Thinking about what can be done is more difficult, but more challenging and more rewarding way of doing things. And I think maybe I don't have the time, but I'll just briefly talk about something that we developed for industry called scanning force microscope, which is a portable version of atomic force microscope, which can basically show it's called atomic force microscope because it can actually show the atomic arrangements in a matter. And when we try to use it for the industry, it has been used in medical research quite a lot. When we try to use it in industry, I went to Germany and talked to some of the people there in Japan. They don't think it can be used in the industry. And we finally sort of came up with one organization in a place called Zelenograph in Russia, not too far from Moscow, about a couple of hours drive. I think it's to the east of Moscow. They build microscopes, and they agreed that they will develop a portable version of atomic force microscope. So we spent many years. We got Surrey University involved in that in Guildford, Surrey University in Guildford, and we developed something which we have been using now in the industry for the last 7-8 years. So if you're determined, you can always perhaps find the solutions. So coming to now, again, international collaboration. Sorry, I've covered the innovation part. I think maybe international collaboration. The world has now moved to a stage where international collaboration in science has become essential to solving some of the larger problems. I have seen this through our own many European Union R&D projects. For example, in one of our projects, Germany was the only country which had large pressure vessel testing facilities at high temperature. So I involved them. This was an organization called MPA in Stuttgart, Germany. We got them involved to do this part of the very large project. Now China is emerging in R&D very seriously. I recently, when I say recently, maybe about 2 years, 3 years, 2.5 years ago, I visited their very large pressure vessel testing facilities near the Great Wall of China, not too far from Beijing. I've never seen anything like this in the West. It's a huge testing facility, and it shows that how collaboration even between not just within the European countries but within Europe and other countries can result in achieving sort of new heights in innovation. Again, I'll give you an example from COVID-19. If the scientists here in the West had tried to learn from the experience of the Southeast Asian countries, who had basically learned from SARS experience before that. So if our scientists had learned from Southeast Asian countries, then sage advice the UK government would perhaps have been different, and some argue that we could have possibly saved many lives. So I think that there was an arrogance within our scientific community that there's not much to learn really from this, small third world countries, if you like. And that, we have to realize that is now, the world is now different, and that mindset, I think, needs to be changed. Even international collaboration, the development of the COVID vaccine is amazing in that apparently all countries, including China and Russia, have been working to WHO guidelines, and their data is published, so all countries can benefit. Then, in terms of international collaboration, I think another important aspect we have to remember that industry these days works without borders. Industry now works across country borders much more frequently. Take the example of Europe, where we used to have separate British, German, Italian, French standards, for example, but they have mainly merged now and are still merging into what we call Euro standards. So a plant designed for Germany is equally useful for France or the UK, and a company building plants in Germany can use the same standard, Euro standard, to build in the UK and in Germany and Portugal and so on. So it saves companies a lot of money and hassle and time because they're keeping same design. In any case, larger manufacturing and other companies have merged, creating mega companies. So no one is really sure which company belongs to which country. Examples of larger companies like Siemens, General Electric, Skoda, etc. are the case in point. They have purchased companies from different countries and enlarged their portfolio. So no one really knows which country they belong to. For example, for an EU-funded project, it's important that the companies being given part of the funding or part funding by the EU are based in EU countries. That's an EU rule. But it's not really, doesn't make sense, a lot of sense anymore. I have seen that the project partners may show one of the partners, for example, General Electric, based in the UK, but the actual input to the project comes from USA. And then a European Union, European project report, which goes to a GE office in the UK, ends up going to the USA office. So all the European Commission thinks that we are competing against USA industry, and we are funding a UK or a European company. Sorry, I keep on saying UK, although we are not in the European Union anymore, but we so actually it's very difficult to say which company belongs to which country and where the data will go or which country the data will not go. So the Commission says that its objective is to compete with Japan, Korea, USA, etc. But many of the data produced through EU funding easily ends up in Seoul, Tokyo, USA. For example, Tucson Babcock, that I sort of originally started my work from, this Babcock in Scotland, which builds power plants, has been for many years owned by Tucson from Korea. So really and Babcock from Scotland can obviously has been participating until recently in the European Commission projects and the British government funded projects. But because the head office is in Seoul in Korea, obviously all the research work, all the data ends up going to Korea as well. So the borders have become a bit hazy now between different countries in terms of international cooperation, in terms of research and development, and in terms of new technology. And now I come to the last part of the talk, which is technology and development. I think I said at the start, I had a passion for this, for technology for the developing countries. And I had initiated a journal as well, a reference journal called Science, Technology and Development, published by Frank Koss from London. We published it for 18 years. And that was all about technology in the developing countries. Many years ago, I initiated a charitable project called Science, Technology and Development. And the idea was to create an awareness in the young and perhaps also in the old scientists in the West that enough technology exists in the world to help fellow humans in the South to have easy access to food, clean water, and sanitation. It was these three things, i.e. food, clean water, and sanitation, that had basically improved the healthcare system and increased the life expectancy in the West, not the medicines. It was actually clean water and sanitation were the basic things which had wiped out most of the disease in the West. So if you have an interest in this area, in the development, then please remember that there are enough scientists in this country, in the UK, who will also be interested, and you could make a group or organization and work together and solve the problems of the poor and dispossessed as well. In this case, we need to remember that science and technology, especially technology, is to be developed to solve problems of the people of these countries, not to catch up with more developed countries. So when I go to developing countries, I always sort of say to them that it's not about sending the people to the moon. It's about solving the problem. This is how the technology developed in the West. Steam engine, cars, they developed because for goods had to be moved from Scotland to England, for example, or from north of England to south of England, and that's how the trends developed. So everything was in response to a certain need of the society, and that is what we need to remember. Next slide, with the technologies such as satellites, IT, internet, robots, drones, smartphones, etc., spread of knowledge and educating children, even in remote areas in the schools, has become a clear possibility without incurring huge costs. So there's a lot of, I think, a lot of now skills technologies are available, which we can use at a very minimum cost to spread the development in the rest of the world and to educate the new generation. This is where young professionals in this country, for example, interested in technology for development can possibly focus their efforts and make a huge contribution to humanity. New ideas and technologies can be further developed to solve the world problems of poverty at affordable costs. The contribution of the Green Revolution of 1960s, starting from 1950s, but then going on to 1960s is probably the best example where science helped to solve the issue of world hunger. It is in terms of technology and development, it's all scientists and engineers need to put more emphasis on fieldwork than the more easy part, which is the desktop studies. So really it's important to, that's what when I go to Pakistan or the developing countries, I say that, the doctors need to go out, the hospitals need to go out and look at the areas around them, and the universities need to go out and look at the schools around them and help them to develop, because you can't really develop the islands of excellence without developing the areas around them or the people around them. No development is complete without the involvement of the locals. That's another important thing to remember. So make them the stakeholders so that they make sure that their development becomes sustainable. And the final slides is for the developing countries, R&D and innovation are important for survival. We all know what happened to a developing country, Egypt, cloth manufacturing industry in Egypt, when artificial yarn was mixed with cotton to produce better quality cloth. So people stopped importing cloth from Egypt because this mixed cloth was easy to wash, was easy to, didn't even need to iron, all it had various advantages. So Egypt's cotton industry had a very difficult time. We all know what happened to jute products from Bangladesh when the artificial surf products came around, which was much cheaper, much easier to make and handle. Many Chinese low-cost, low-value products are now being replaced through R&D to high-value products. That is the policy that China has now adopted, because less developed countries in Asia, Latin America, and Africa have started producing the same products at lower prices than China. So developing countries must not wait until it is too late. They must also get into R&D. Even the humble bike toilets for use in dry regions of, for example, Gobi Desert, etc. They need innovation in design and R&D support to meet the local needs. You cannot really copy, for example, the toilet system with the flush system, which needs a lot of water from a water-rich country to a very dry region in the countries of Sahara Desert, Gobi Desert, wherever you need to invent maybe vacuum technologies, like they use it in airplanes and so on, just an example. And so everything needs R&D and some sort of innovation to solve the local needs and the problems. These are all the industries and sources of wealth for these countries. So I hope this has been, sorry, there was another slide. Oh, right, okay. Hope that this has all been helpful and has given you some insight and ideas of what you need to think in terms of leadership, in terms of you working towards leadership, and once you become the leader, then how you deal with the people working for you. And in terms of technology for development, and in terms of international collaboration, and how to deal with in international teams with people from other countries, other cultures, and other regions. So I hope that this has been a useful and thought-provoking talk for you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Shibli, for an excellent presentation. Yeah, we have some time now for Q&A. So if there's anyone who wants to ask questions, please feel free to type your question in the chat box. And I think there was a question. Somebody, I think, wanted to know a bit more on ETD company, the size of it, how many people are working there, the annual revenue or things like this. So I don't know, maybe if you could shed some light on that in terms of the size of
Well, basically, we are really we work on a different model. Revenue that's about £1 million. Sometimes it's gone up, sometimes, well, especially COVID period, um, uh, has been fairly quiet, as you can imagine. Our research and development projects are still running, but in terms of consulting, we send the teams to various countries to work on the plants, and that has not been feasible for more than 1 year. In terms of numbers, probably we have some core sort of managers and organizers, but we use a lot of consultants. So our model is different, not just really employees. We're probably about 40, 50 people from different countries and different regions. They work for ETD in one capacity or the other. And we are the only European country which has got really very close collaboration with, I think, with them, the Japanese, with Japanese standards authorities, with Japanese teams and Japanese scientists. Um, so if you like anything more, I can, I didn't really want this to be about
no, that's
ETD. This is more a general self-talk.
okay, that's fair. Dr. Ahmed, you spoke about leadership. Now, what is leadership about? Would you say it's about more about influence, or is leadership is about power?
Well, professional leadership, I'm in a different field really in research and development. Um, leadership is about, I'm in research and development because I've got basically passion for innovation. It's not really about business. Business is just because you have to put the teams together and you have to do that. You have to achieve certain goals and develop new things. So leadership in professional circles, it depends on the psychology of the people. For some, it's power. For others, it will be motivating people. They enjoy that. They like that. They like to be part of the team. They like to lead the teams. When I was, I'm not working the European Commission projects anymore, but when I was leader of various European Commission projects, it was, it was great because, we were well respected and it's also respect and prestige that you get within your own professional circles. So I think that is what I enjoy about the leadership. You go to different countries, you go to the conferences, and everybody wants you to chair this session or chair that session, or to maybe to give a talk at the sort of conference dinner or things like that. So I think the psychology of different people is different. For some, it's power. If you're in the political sense, obviously, probably it's only power or mainly power. If you're in a technical field, then it's and then I think there's a Jim Al-Khalili. I don't know if you ever heard of this program from Surrey University. He normally talks about, he invites scientists from different areas who have achieved something very high in their field. And when you listen to these scientists, they will all talk about, there was something that basically developed a passion in them for certain subjects, for astronomy or for biology or something, and they spend the rest of their life in working in that area, and they achieve great heights. So I think that is and they became sort of maybe head of the department in Cambridge or Oxford University or some other research institute, and they became head of the research institute. So it's all really about, I think different people are motivated in different ways, but in technology, research and development, and perhaps certainly in professional circles, it's just the recognition and respect that you gain, I think.
Yeah. So in your line of field, in the R&D and managing leading projects where you've got many international partners, obviously, you need to be a good networker, you need to be a good manager, a good leader, and a good scientist, a good researcher as well. What would you say
No,
your
but yeah, it's a very difficult job really, because you wouldn't find a lot of good researchers are not good managers, and that's very difficult to find. We find it, and I know that every company that I know finds it difficult to find people who are good at both, at managing people and at research and innovation. Um, and it's a difficult task, and that is why some companies are very successful, some are not. The main sort of really problem lies, the challenge lies in finding the right people. Once you find the right people, your company can do very well. Just like Bill Gates, Microsoft, for example, that was his own company, but the guy was a genius in managing people and also in innovation. So, and yeah, unfortunately, there aren't that many people like that. A lot of good scientists could be I was going to say odd personalities, but that's probably not the right word. But they could be, they could be um, a very different species. Yeah.
Okay, you also spoke, you spoke about leadership and innovation and that, yeah. Now, is it essential that to be a leader, you need to be an innovator? Do leaders innovate or innovators are leaders?
Um, well, it is really difficult. I mean, if you are in a if you are in a head of a university sort of science or engineering field, I think it helps if you're an innovator and you have got that type of your that type of mindset. Um, but if you are in an industry, some of the industries, for example, they have the accountants to become they don't have to be innovators. They don't even understand the whole of industry. They might become the executive or chief executive as long as they can get the bottom line right, and the company makes big profits. Um, they are okay. Then somebody else can look after the innovation in different
Yeah.
departments. So
Now,
it depends, yeah.
yeah. Now, how important is collaboration in technology development and innovation?
I think it's becoming more and more important, and it has been important for quite some time, actually. I was talking about, for example, COVID. COVID really, I think vaccines were developed because, through collaboration between different scientists, something in the background that we don't hear of, but there have been many research papers um, being published over many years. And the vaccine was developed so quickly because work has been going on for many years in the research area in this particular sort of epidemiology and so on. Yeah. So I think that international, for example, the Concord was developed as a collaboration between UK and France. Um, and similarly, Rolls-Royce supplies the engines for Boeing and for Airbus and so on. So international collaboration, and for example, materials research, which is my area, and I led for a long time something called European Collaborative Committee for about 15 years. And that was, I think, maybe 12 years. Sorry. And that is where, we have 27 sort of um, countries, European countries involved, and 35 sort of industries and the universities involved. Um, and it looked after the data and research from on high temperatures for pressure vessel and piping materials and turbines. And we had a very close collaboration with the Japanese, for example, NIMS, which is a National Institute of Materials Sciences based in Tsukuba, a very high level research center. And because we both wanted to benefit from each other's research, nobody wants to reinvent the wheel. And we have already done something. We go and share the work with them, and that's why we organize the international conferences. And if we have done something, when we organize the conferences, Japanese come here, and so they learn from us, so they don't repeat the same mistakes that we have made, and we don't repeat the same work that Japanese have already carried out. So international collaboration it helps, it moves science and innovation much quicker.
Okay. How important is good communication in leadership? You mentioned in your talk that when you speak communicating with foreigners, to speak simple English and that. But what if you're working with people whose native language is English? But communication, how important is that in leadership? And
Well, the ones with native language, English, as long as you can speak good English, there isn't a problem really. For example, if you're in the UK or you go to Australia or USA, it's not really a problem. What I was always thinking about is, um, you know, um, I mean, I remember I had organized a training course, and there were two native speakers, and one was from Japan. There were three sort of speakers we had for 3 days, and one of the native speakers, had a strong accent, and he was from north of England. The other one was from south, and he had very clear English. But the other, the one from the north, he had very strong accent, and he used a lot of colloquial language. And the people who were attending the course, for example, from Poland and from other East European countries, they said that they had difficulty in understanding him. So they understood the other two, the Japanese professor very well, and the others are native from south of England. So I think that in European Parliament, for example, one guy who was who worked as an interpreter, he said to me that he always finds it very difficult to interpret interpret the Scottish MEPs, for example, because they use some of the words in the language which he doesn't understand himself. So it's difficult for him to translate them for others in different languages. So there are native speakers and there are native speakers. But yeah, so if somebody speaks clearly, then obviously it's not a problem
now leaders also subjected to
in an English-speaking country.
yeah, leaders are also subjected to a lot of pressure. How do you cope with the pressure?
Hello? Oh,
Can you
sorry,
hear
it
me?
was breaking up for.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm saying leaders are subjected to a lot of pressure. How do you cope
Breaking
with
up
the
for a few
pressure?
seconds. Oh yeah, that is something really I should add in my slides. They say don't get into the kitchen if you don't like the heat. So I say to myself, if you the best thing is you will see sometimes jobs that are being advertised. We say they are looking for somebody who can achieve much by panicking. Don't panic and just think that, well, if you're not successful, you'll be successful next time. So just don't panic. There'll be a lot of pressure, but as long as you can organize your work and
Okay.
put time scales on your work, you usually manage to achieve things. That's a difficult topic. It depends on the personalities as well.
Okay, so I think, Dr. Ahmed, we've come to the end. Maybe to finish off, yeah, what advice would you give to the youngsters who are our future leaders?
Sorry, we're breaking up again.
Yeah, I'm saying that,
Sorry, Nasser, we're breaking up again.
yeah, we've come to the end. I think just to finish off this webinar.
Sorry. Okay, it broke up. Say that again. No, I think it's okay now.
Yeah, I said that, we've come to the end. It's past 8 o'clock now. And I think just to finish off, maybe what advice would you give to the youngsters who are our future leaders?
Yeah, I think something is happening. I'm sorry about that, but something is happening to the internet somewhere, or to
Okay,
Zoom somewhere.
okay, no problem. Okay, I think we've come to the end of our time. Thank you very much, Dr.
Well,
Ahmed.
sorry, Nasser, you've become very clear now. Do you want to repeat what you said
Yeah.
before?
No, I was saying that we've come to the end now. And I think to finish this webinar off, maybe if you can finish by what advice would you give to the youngsters who are our future leaders? What advice would you give them? And then we'll finish on that note.
Well, the advice is really to have to have motivation. And also, I think from the names, I can probably see that a lot of people might belong to ethnic minorities. I think don't ever feel that that you're don't ever feel victimized. Just sort of carry on and be. Um, I think even this country has changed, the world has changed, and as long as you have motivation to succeed, you will succeed. So just keep calm and carry on.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed Shibli, for an excellent talk, webinar on leadership, and for sharing your experience about your work and giving your suggestions on leadership and innovation and technology development. So once again, thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for those who have joined us. And do remember that those people who were not able to join us today, we will upload this recording of this webinar on the Young Professional Society YouTube channel. So where you'll find all our webinars in the past that we've conducted on there. So once again, Dr. Ahmed Shibli, thank you very much. Thank you for those who've joined us, and have a good night and keep safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ali. Thank you for
you.
my.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.